Welcome back to the Ardent Wife podcast. My name is Dee. I'm so excited that you decided to listen to us today. And what I mean by us is my sisters, Jennifer and Tiffany. We are here to offer you a biblical, practical perspective about walking in this wife life, right? And today we're talking about what it means to bring peace into your home. And I love the scripture, Proverbs 14:1, and I have the wrong version up. What version? Does anybody have one that's not the Message version, which is really great, but I'll just read it because I have it. It says, Lady Wisdom builds a lovely home. Sir Fool comes along and tears it down brick by brick. And if my phone was going faster, I would say other versions, but it's basically we set the pulse for our home, and we can also tear it down, whether it be by our actions, by our words. And so we are here today just to talk about what that looks like as a wife, and what that looks like different from the world. So what do you guys think? How can we set the tone of peace in our homes?
I think it's first realizing that we do. I think, that was one of the things that I learned over time is that I actually do. And my mood, my spirit, the way in which I'm showing up has an effect on my husband and my children. So I think that's step one, is realizing that you have maybe more power than you think, or maybe you know it, but I just think it's that, like, man, I set the tone. And I know, like, when Rondi and I, our husband and I, are in like a tough spot, it affects me internally. Like, my day is off. Like, where I'm at with him is a gauge for me. And not that I don't get through it. And, but I do feel like it has an effect. And so my presence and our spirits have an effect in the environment that we enter, and especially our homes with our children. When we think about attachment, when you think about, what we bring to our home and the importance of a healthy attachment with our children and what that brings into the world, it really matters. So that's, to me, the first step is realizing, and I think I lived many years without realizing that, the effect of what I have in my home and how I can bring a sense of peace and joy or not.
And I think I like that you said that, like, first recognizing that, hey, I have some responsibility in this. Like, I set the tone for my home, because I think our sin nature would want us to say, like, hey, what I do don't have nothing to do with him. Like, it doesn't matter how I show up. He still need to do what he's supposed to do. But taking that responsibility and saying, you know what? I have power here. I have power and authority in this place to bring peace. And then everyone else, then my husband, my children, and everybody benefits from that. And I was just thinking, what is peace? When we think about peace, like, what is peace? Because it tells us that the peace of God, the scriptures in the Bible talks about, the peace of God, which passes all understanding. And so it's just this place, I think, of contentment, this place of, there's nothing better. You're not saying, are you trying to flee the situation that you're in to think, oh, there's something better, like I'm not in the right place, or I'm in the wrong place, or this can't be right, because we can't seem to have this oneness. But I think it's just like this peace that says, hey, God is here, God is with me, and regardless of what's going on, I'm going to stand in that.
It helps me to kind of think of the opposite, that, like, chaos. When I think of chaos, That
I like
you know,
that.
that just helps me to kind of put it in perspective. And when you said gentleness, I think about the passage, and this one convicts me all the time, that let your gentleness be evident to all, for the Lord is near.
Mm-hmm.
So Dee, I know you're going to say something too, but it helps me to think of the opposite.
Like
No, I'm in agreement with both you. And I found a different version of Proverbs 14:1. And I love this too, because it touches on what you both said. And its amplified version says, the wise woman builds her house on a foundation of godly precepts, and her household thrives. But the foolish one who lacks spiritual insight tears it down with her own hands by ignoring godly principles. And
mm-hmm.
so that's what it is, right? It's by, you were saying, the peace, and just by your own hands, and just by acknowledging like where you're at, what you're doing. But what I was thinking as well is we have to realize that not everyone has the same type of household. And there are some households where the husband may not be at peace spiritually, emotionally, and the wife might be a wife that's submissive, into the point where she doesn't speak her piece. She maybe allows things to happen in the home, that it might not be a peaceful place. And I'm just thinking of how I grew up. I know of how other people's, where the husband can be very dominating in the home, and even from a woman just not sharing, or not coming up, or not offering godly precepts in our house, uh, it might not set the tone. So, what do we say about that when personalities come in place? Because we're all ardent. We're all very passionate, strong-willed women,
Yeah.
but not every home is like that. Some women are, their husbands are more dominating than, and not, I don't want to say dominating. That's not a good word. Oh, Holy Spirit, give me another word. Just the husband is just more vocal
Mm-hmm.
than the wife. So what do you guys think about that?
The thing that was coming to mind to me is that, I feel like when you are connected to the vine, when you are connected to Jesus, and you are, um, when he's the king of your heart, and you have made him, king in your life, then whatever you do, you're doing it to honor him. So circumstances come and go. Your husband can be, um, more vocal or more dominant, but it's not like you're focused on him, but you're focused on pleasing Jesus. So it's like, yeah, he's doing this, but I'm honoring God in my response to what he's doing. So it's almost as if, it's like, yeah, he's doing that thing, but I'm not focusing on the thing that he's doing. And I'm trusting that God will give me what I need. Like, my eyes are fixed on him, and trusting that he'll give me what I need to get through um, this friction or yeah.
Or
Yeah,
just also be heard, just to be heard in the
Yeah.
in the house. Go ahead, Jennifer.
yeah, I think of First Peter, and I'm going to back it up. I'm stealing a thunder from my husband, something he talks about a lot. So First Peter 3, um, it says wives and husband, right? It says, likewise, wives, be subject to your own husband, so that even if some of them do not obey the word, they may be won over without a word by the conduct of their wives, when they see your respectful and pure conduct. And then it says, do not let your adornment be braided hair, gold jewelry, but let your adorning be the hidden person of a heart with imperishable beauty, of a gentle and quiet spirit,
Mm-hmm.
which in God's sight is very precious.
Mm-hmm.
This is how the, holy women who hoped in God used to adorn themselves, by submitting to their husbands, right? And then it says, likewise, husbands. But if you go back, because the likewise is actually referring to the previous chapter, because there was not headings back in the day in the
Mm-hmm.
Bible. Check this out. Before that, before he goes into husbands and wives. All right, here we go. But for what credit if when you sin and you are beaten for it, you endure. But what if, when you do good and suffer for it, you endure? This is a gracious thing in God's sight. For to this you have been called, because Christ also suffered for you, leaving you an example so that you might follow in his steps. He committed no sin, neither was no deceit found in his mouth. When he revealed, he did not reveal in return. When he suffered, he did not threaten, but continued entrusting himself to him who judges justly. He bore our sins in his body on a tree, that we might die to sin and live to righteousness. By his wounds you've been healed. For you were like sheep, straying like sheep, but you now return to the shepherd and the overseer of your souls. Likewise, wives, be submissive. Likewise, he is talking about likewise, like go back to see what Jesus did. And this is not an easy call. I'm reading
Absolutely not.
It's not an easy call.
Yeah. But I think though it's not an easy call, but I think Jesus makes it more manageable. Or like the thought of doing it, it makes it, and I think in so many ways it also makes it enjoyable. If you think about the suffering he's done on your behalf, and if I have to die to my flesh to honor my husband, but that's in turn honoring Jesus, like I'm suffering for doing good, even though my husband may not be reciprocating that, like that's like honor and joy. Like, oh, I get to, like I'm thinking about the disciples who's counted all joy after they had been flogged, that they got to suffer with Christ. Like this enjoyment, like what? Like I get to experience like this small piece of what he endured. Nothing in comparison, but to think that we can join him in suffering. To me, it kind of makes it, in a sense, in a weird kind of way, enjoyable. Like Jesus, like I'm in this with you. Like you're my king.
And there's so many different examples of how there's productiveness in the suffering, right? And I think like in Zechariah, when he's like, return to your fortress, you prisoner of hope, because even now I will restore twice as much to you. And it's like, you're a prisoner of hope. You are walking in the likeness of the Lord to the best of your ability, because you know that you'll have twice as much restored to you. And that is what allows you to have the enjoyment, as Tiffany says, or the endurance, or just for it to be bearable.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I know he answers promises. I know he'll never leave me nor forsake me. I know this might be the cross that I get to bear on this earth, but Jesus is better, and he will give me twice as much, which is a hard cross to bear. But there's so many different crosses that people bear.
Yeah.
It might not be that, like, some people it's addiction, some people it is sexual issues, some people it's financial. Like we all have a different cross that we're bearing. And if we don't look to Jesus, it will crucify us, right? Here in the flesh. But that's why we have our hope and our trust in Jesus, so that we can, as enjoy it, despite what it looks like, what it feels like on a day-to-day basis.
I think that's partly the reason why we have to fix our eyes on things above, right? That we have to fix our eyes, like you made me think of James, right? Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, when you face trials of many kinds. Why? Because the testing of your faith develops perseverance, and perseverance, right? Hope. And that's, but that is like, I have to fix my eyes not on what I see here now. And realizing that, okay, wait, I'm recognizing I'm in a trial right now. Wait a minute. Okay. Right. And so, yeah, I think it is. Tiffany, I don't know if I'm quite there, like with you yet, though. I'm like, man, you're just way more.
I don't know about enjoyment of it. Enjoyment, that's a very strong word.
I want to be there. I want to, like, you talk, and I'm like, come on, like these are the kind of friends I need, because I don't know if I'm not always there, y'all.
But I do know when recently we've been in a trial, and I just remember I had to continually tell him, abandon what you see, D, and have trust in what you don't see, because God is working in the unseen. And that grew my faith tremendously. Like I'm not the same person I was before that trial. Because like even now, like little things that happen, I'm like, abandon what you see, just trust from what you don't see. Because like the little things are nothing compared to that big thing at the time. I didn't enjoy it, but I did, but I did have hope, and it got me through, and it allowed me to still show up and still be in my home and still love my girls and still love my husband and still get through each day, because I had just continually know that God is working on my behalf. He will never leave me nor forsake me. He's there for me. So I do see that, but yeah, that part.
Giving way to fear, because we've seen you walk through some things and you didn't give way to fear.
Yes.
And I think I just want to point out that that is a practical of how it's mindset. That was mindset, right? That you took the time to be like, okay, wait a minute, like I got to fix my mind. I got to, and that's not a small thing.
No.
And it's a very practical thing though. It's a very practical thing.
Yes. And as you were saying that, though, the scripture that came to mind, which I'm sure we've all heard, Romans chapter 12, verse 1 and 2, right?
Yes.
Don't conform to the world, but be transformed by what?
The renewal of your mind.
The renewal of your mind. So that mindset shift, and from that flows.
Hey, everybody. If you like our podcast and you want to engage with us,
sign up to get quick links to our recent podcast, encouragement, and to join our latest challenge.
Go to theardentwife.com to connect with us and continue the conversation. And so, like Jennifer said at the beginning, though, you have to acknowledge it. You have to be intentional. Like as believers, we are not YOLO walking on this on autopilot. Like we are intentionally taking step by step, fixing our eyes on the Lord and really trying to emulate what he looks like in each step, so that we can encourage the other sisters and brothers that are watching us as we're walking on this earth. And so acknowledging it, recognizing it is very practical. And then speaking life, right, over yourself, because the power of words is huge. And then I also think community would be another practical step. Like, so you're recognizing it, you have changed your mindset, you're speaking life, and then you're getting into community with other believers, which it says Hebrews 3, right? We go into community with other believers so that they can help renew our mind. They can spur us on. They can encourage us to do good things. They can call out the enjoyment in the suffering so that it gives us a laugh at that moment, which is major when you're going through something hard and challenging. Yeah. And I think sometimes when we are doing things, we have that shame and that guilt, and we don't want to share it with others. Yeah. We just want to walk in it on our own and isolate ourselves. And then it's just even harder to show up for your family, for your community, for your children, when you're carrying that all by yourself.
Mm-hmm. And I think, and to play off that, like the Bible tells us, there's nothing new under the sun. No man has been tempted beyond what has been done before. So it's like whatever you're going through, somebody else is going through it now, have gone through it. So, you have to remove that shame surrounding that, because we're all human and we live in a fallen world. We have these two, Paul tells us, we're wrestling. The old man and the new man, and he says clothe yourself or put on. It's not a one and done. We're continually fixing our eyes. We're continuing to take off the old man and put on the new. It's not like, oh, I did that last week. No ma'am, sweet girl. You got to do it sometime, hour by hour, minute by minute.
Something
you can't
else
survive off last week's manna.
No, it'll be nasty and maggot and just gross. Something else I think I tell myself often is get over yourself, D.
Yeah.
Like, get over yourself. Mm-hmm. Like my husband, like he's having get over yourself and try to be kind so that his day doesn't continue to be bad. Or my girls are bickering, like get over yourself and try to not be irritated that they're irritating each other, but try to be a thoughtful mom, be mature in the situation. And, so how we, that spiritual insight is huge, and how we lift our house up, and it's the foundation of how we can keep peace in our home, rather than tear it down.
Yeah.
It takes work though. It's not just like easy peasy.
And I think there's that spiritual side, and then I keep thinking the word halt, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, right?
Mhm.
And so like when you're and even,
Good.
when you're upset, when like the other day I shared, right? I had gone to work at 5 in the morning. It was now 5:30 and I'm waiting for my kids to get out of school and I messed up on the time. But I was like, I was tired. I was tired.
Mhm.
I was hungry. I felt gross. I really needed a shower. Like it was just a mix of things, And so I realized for me how much I hate to use this word because it's doesn't really encapsulate. So maybe you can help me, you guys, but self-care, right? Like I need to
Mhm.
put on my oxygen mask. I need to make sure, yes, I'm grounded spiritually. And then I fuel my body well. And, I honestly, when I don't move, when I don't have a time of movement, you guys,
Yeah.
I can be a little cranky pants and that's not okay. Right. But I know, okay, I'm going to go get some movement because it's going to help me to
Yeah.
be in my body. And so there is that side too, that yes, I want to take care of myself spiritually, but I think moving and fueling my body well is a spiritual act too.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
self-care, but y'all help. I don't want to just call it self-care.
Yeah.
I think self-control. I mean, I feel like that's part of self-control, because when you're realizing that I need to eat so that I can control myself, I need to take care of myself. I think that's one of the fruits. And
Mhm.
it's in walking in this world with self-care Saturday, let's go get our hair done. Like, we're not talking about that when you're
Mhm.
talking about self-care, but caring for yourself, um, stewarding. I would say stewarding yourself
Yeah. Mhm.
well would be a good Christianese word to put on that. When you steward yourself well, then you can bring peace into your home.
For
But
real.
it's true though. Like
It
that.
is for real.
Yeah.
And fuel my body well with good food. Like
Mhm.
just a quick sugar or something that's going to get me,
If I
crash, but a good solid what's going to fuel me
Absolutely,
well.
if I have that Reese's because I'm angry, and because like it's a hit, it's
Yeah.
a but about an hour later, it doesn't sustain. It doesn't. But when I have a good meal, that's like all the things that I need,
Yes.
that takes me
Yeah.
through soccer practice, into dinner, into
Yes.
homework,
Yes.
and like 2:30 to 4:30, a lot of people want the Reese's, they want the chips, they want the quick
The tough time.
fixes,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we still got more work to do, moms. Like, we
Yeah.
gotta go to soccer, we gotta
Mhm.
cook dinner, we gotta do
Mhm.
math. Like, we need something that's gonna fuel our brain, fuel our spirit, so that we can continue on. Because if not, like, math ends up everybody's crying because
Yeah.
I'm hangry. They don't know how to do math, and it's a mess. So no,
Yeah.
absolutely, feeding yourself well, moving your body is huge. It's so important, um, to steward yourself well.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, mind, body, soul, and spirit, right? It's you
Yeah,
are a whole person. You just can't focus on the one and then neglect the other. Like it all plays together.
right. So the practical tools was just recognizing, right?
Yeah.
Mindset, speaking
Mhm.
life, getting into community, and then stewarding your body well, like honoring your temple. There you go. Like honoring your temple, whether it's your mind, your body, your soul, whatever you need in that moment, allows us to show up in a
Yeah.
place where we're looking like Jesus and bringing peace into our home.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, that vital connection. Like we have to be connected into the source first, and then from that, all these things flow.
Yeah,
That's the
because
vine.
if
Yeah.
if we're not connected into the vine, it can become about vanity. It can become these stewarding our body can go left, or it can become
Dead
about our,
branches.
yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
having that vine is important. That's
Yeah.
really, really important. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So Jesus first, everyone.
I know you've heard it before. And if you keep listening, you'll hear it over and over and over again, because he really truly is the answer. That's what we want to drive home
Alpha,
and
Omega, just top of the list, and then
right.
anything else that we have to add.
Yes. And
I
hopefully
love
that
the
encourages people. Sorry, D, but hopefully that encourages people, to foster their relationship with him. I hope people listen to this and walk away saying, where's this Jesus? I want him. I need him. Like looking for him.
I think of
Like,
the Mary Mary song, I need just a little more Jesus. Okay.
yeah.
We all need just a little more Jesus. I would love to continue this conversation in the Ardent Wives Club. We have multiple wives there from all walks, from barely married to been married for a long time, to offer to this conversation. If you are not part of the Ardent Wives Club, you can go ahead and look down below in our description. There is a link there for you to join us. I would love to also know anything that you have to offer to this conversation of how you keep the peace in your home, because I mean, the more tools and tips that we can have, the stronger we can be to cry, laugh, and grow closer to Jesus together. So we'll see you next time.